What's up, everybody? Welcome to Coffee and Analytics. I'm your host, Nick Powell's publisher of 1851. Most of you already know that. Nothing new there. Okay, so first things first, anybody that's watching this, this is our chance to tell you about this. On September 18th, 19th, and 20th in Chicago, we will be launching our first ever summit. What's different about this franchise summit as opposed to other conferences or events is that one, everybody is welcome. So you can even be a direct competitor of ours. We welcome you. We're trying to build a collective that can come together and work together to solve whatever issues may be facing franchising, especially as it relates to franchise growth or business development for suppliers. We're going to get in a room. We're going to crank through this together. There's awesome speakers. We're doing a Cubs game. So really cool things that are going to be happening. Save the dates, September 18th, 19th, and 20th. You can email me at npowells, P-O-W-I-L-L-S, at hellomainland.com. Find me on LinkedIn. Send me a message on there. We'll make sure that you get more information on that. So this week, this month, and there's always a topic that gets me jazzed up or gets me excited or I think a lot about. And this month happens to be the equation. And the equation is that A+B doesn't equal C when it comes to franchising. I think it's the toughest thing for a franchisor or for a business to go through, period, is that you spend so much money and what do you get in return. I was talking to a prospective client yesterday who exhibited at the Franchise Expo in New York. And I said, how'd it go? Now, I had my expectations. And she said, it was the worst money that I've ever spent in my entire life. I said, okay. I said, I totally understand why you have that feeling. I said, but let me give you some data, which most of you have heard me talk about this data, is that when I've talked with, our team has talked with franchisees, which we're north of 1,000 now over the last year and a half, we say, tell us about your journey. It's always 6.4 months. Like there's an entire process that it takes to get this thing going. And so 6.4 months from impression to inquiry means that maybe someone saw you at the show, maybe they walked by you, maybe they didn't talk to you, but maybe they put you into a category that now you can use that as that's their jumping point into whatever business, whatever franchise they end up buying. So I said, look, if you look at a show as A+B equals C, you could totally look at it in a disappointing way. But if you look at it A+B minus Y plus T plus I, whatever that equation ends up being, then it could totally have a tremendous impact on your viewpoint on how you approach any dollars that you spend in franchising. And so take that insight. That's a huge, huge value, huge insight back to your own mindset, your own approach when it comes to development. And so that was point one. Point two, I said, have you ever been on a bad date? And she said, oh yeah. I said, right. I said, sometimes there's going to be moments in your franchise development spend that is going to feel like a bad date. But it teaches you something. You learn every time you go on a bad date. You got to kiss a lot of frogs to find your prince. So it teaches you something about what you want and what you don't want to do in franchising. And now most of you know this. I'm not speaking anything novel, but franchising is always a journey. There are the rare scenarios that get crazy traffic, crazy lift. But for majority of franchise brands, it's a journey. And so now when you're looking at how do you approach franchise development, you may say franchise PR doesn't work. You may say my website doesn't work. You may say digital advertising doesn't work. Whatever it is that you're looking at and you're saying that doesn't work, my encouragement is to back away from that and try to look at the holistic picture. And it's changing more and more than ever before, because what we have to do to get our brand in front of that end user is becoming increasingly more difficult. Here's why. in today's franchise world, me as a candidate, I'm out there in the world. I haven't inquired in a brand, and I get turned on to franchising. I start thinking about what is franchising? What could franchising mean for me? What could franchising mean for my family? I start looking broad. And now on the broad stroke, if we look at level one of the broad stroke, we see the franchise broker. And the broker has done a phenomenal job of inserting themselves into all local markets, whether it's brand broker X or broker Y. In every single town across America, there's someone who now understands franchising. Now, the good in that is that we have advocates for franchising as a potential business model that can scale. So that's a huge thing to from a value standpoint of the education of what franchising is. I remember IFA did a study a few years back where they started asking general public, what is franchising? And some of the messages that stuck with me were, well, it's they're hired by corporate and they just make money for corporate. And what fascinates me about that is we still haven't educated the communities throughout the United States that there is someone that invested their life savings into that business and they're following a pattern and they're doing this to build wealth or to build something special for their family. And most of the time, the community doesn't even understand that there's a small business owner behind these brands. But again, the benefit of a broker is now them in the marketplace, they are lifting up awareness of what franchising is, which in turn is creating tremendous opportunity for every brand that's watching this as well, because that's hurdle one is what is franchising and what could franchising mean for me and my family? Now, beyond that, because the brokers have cannibalized this, now we also have the web. And so if I go backwards 10 years, a franchise expo was how I could look at a whole process, a whole plethora of franchise opportunities and try to think through what could I actually be passionate about. And so, you walk the New York Franchise Expo, you might see Philly Pretzel Factory giving out pretzels in this corner, Checkers and Rallies giving out fries in this corner, a pizza brand, massage brand. You start walking through this journey and you're like, could I own that? Could I own this? I still think that the gap, which, frankly, brokers are solving, is what is franchising? What can it mean for me? And if that doesn't happen to that candidate when they walk in that room, then we're missing a piece. Now that brings up another important point. And if I'm try to give you guys takeaways, something tactical that you can do and go execute beyond this call. And this is something tactical and something executable for my team as well, for any of the brands that we work with. But take that insight. What is franchising? How many of you have put this on your website? Not many. So we're not educating the buyer on what franchising even is. And so are we missing an opportunity to educate them on how this works as step one? And are we leaving it to the web to figure this out? Now, after I've educated on what franchising is, now I need to start going through the process of how much money do I have? What brands are actually registered for sale or to sell in my state? What's available in the marketplace? What could actually work in my market? You start going through this list. Now we've talked about brokers, talked about what is franchising, and we're talking about how much money. What am I doing? I'm overcomplicating the process, or I'm being truthful that A plus B doesn't equal C. And so I think, again, it goes back to my original statement that we're conditioned. We want it to work that way. We want to do this. You cut out calories, and therefore we lose weight. How many of you cut out calories? How many of you go on diet and get on that scale and it doesn't work? And we got to cross-apply it back to franchising, because I think that's a critical element of the mindset that you're going to need to win at this. Now, data across all brands. This is not good news, but I'm going to put a caveat on it that good news is on its way. If I look at leads, and before that I look at traffic, and after those I look at applications, It's definitely not swinging up. It's either staying flatlined or declining a little bit in majority of scenarios. When there's a broker involved, you can see things twist a little bit because the brokers are actually pushing deals. But I believe there's more candidates today sitting on the sideline than ever before. Therefore, it's super critical that we give them the why you, why now. Because if they're like this knee-jerk pause, you could come up with a million reasons why you don't want to buy a franchise. Not the right timing. I don't know if I have the right money. I don't know if I have the right mindset. I don't know if I want to hustle. And so when they're all on the sidelines, it's up to you, if you want to sell your brand, to push them over the ledge. And again, this is part of that equation. Now we're getting into the psyche of the buyer that goes into this equation. So anyway, the point of this is, if you were to zoom out of your brand, if you zoom in, you're like A plus B equals C. If you zoom out and say, what do I need to do to increase the awareness that we are in fact a franchise opportunity that can be viable for the candidate that is looking at what should they do next in their life or their career? What do we do to get in front of them? It shifts that mindset. I was talking to a franchisor yesterday, and this resonated with me. He was talking about his why. And he said his why is the core values, that when he gets a candidate on the phone, there's an immediate shift in their facial expressions. They're nodding their head because they can see. And he talked about the word teamwork, and he talked about respect. And he starts saying these things to the candidate. He said that's pushing them over the edge. Now, truth be told, I went and looked at their website while we were having the discussion, and the core values aren't on there. And I go, that's a gap. How do we close that gap? Why don't we as brands put our core values on our sites? So if I'm looking back at websites, I'm saying yes, there's a scientific user experience that should go into these development sites. But beyond that, what should the messaging be? There's a huge shift that's happening right now, which is, what is franchising? What is some sort of downloadable brochure? What is my why you, why now? Clear message at the top of it. Showcasing that brands don't sell brands, people do. Lifting up my culture. Culture videos, I think, are a tremendous opportunity. Some sort of sizzle reel. Reach out to us if you're interested in learning more on that. And then your core values. What do you stand for, and why should someone want to be a part of your organization? And so these shifts that are happening are also, it doesn't mean we swing away from how much does it cost and how much can I make. It just means that there's these add-ons that are going to be necessary for you to get the lift that you ultimately want. Now, when it comes to spending, and if you read my note in the registration for this discussion, this Coffee and Analytics, brought to you by nobody other than coffee, I went through just the approach to lead generation and honesty and integrity. In my opinion, there are too many franchise suppliers that sell leads. And I've always been torn on this, because franchisor X gets on our calls and they say, where are my leads? And I say, do you really want leads, or do you want applications and you want deals? And that's always been my pathway. And I battle with this internally, because I'm like, I know the tactics to get you names. I know how to build a Facebook ad campaign that will give you leads. I know how to talk about analytics that give you leads. I know how to buy portal ads that give you leads. But when I zoom out of that too, I don't see many buyers. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't eventually buy. I think we're fast as an industry to dismiss someone as a cold lead when in fact they're just not ready to have a conversation, and we don't give them what is franchising as the first piece of collateral. We jump to conclusions that they're interested because they filled out the form. But we have to, if we're going to zoom out of all this lead stuff and say, is it actually going to move the needle for our brand? It might be no. Now I get it. The challenge for someone in franchise development is you have most likely a leader or CEO or founder who's like, go get deals, go get deals, go get deals, go get deals. And that pressure sucks. And sometimes brands, you're conditioned to sell how many you're going to sell. And if you look at franchising, the beauty is even a brand that sells 15 units could have a beautiful exit. Beautiful in the eyes of some people. And so, selling deals is hard. Scaling a franchise is hard. Money into franchising is hard. and understanding a process is hard. And so this whole thing, and again, like I'm trying to throw all these different things into it to say, if we're super honest, lead generation is tough. All right. So here's a comment. Number of leads does not equal deals. Then what equals more deals? What do you think is that formula? Great question. So first comment is the number one equation to make deals, to get deals in anything. If you're in general business, it's customers. And if you're in franchising, it's franchisees. And so it's like number of units sold, not open, SNOs. I think it's such a garbage number because ultimately we need our franchisees to sign. We need to have a strong process to get them to open. When they open, we want them to open well. And so that not only do they open well and validate, we want them to now go validate and tell more people to buy this franchise. So yeah, I mean, Mark just put this, level economics. And so you can get there by, like, successful franchisees are going to grow your brand more than marketing or anything else. You want to market the fact that they're signing and they're opening and they're scaling and they're hitting their milestones. But franchisees end up being the definition. Successful franchisees end up being the definition of what is the easiest form of the equation. If you said, Nick, I have $25,000 and I need it to get me a deal, what would I do? And this is off the cuff brainstorming. I would probably take 10 of that and put that into reserve and say, I have 10 grand for my next franchisee that signs, that when they open, I'm going to give you a check for $10,000 out of my development budget because I want you to be successful. So that's on the books. You got to spend it, but I'm going to reserve 10K for that. I'll take that other 15K if I had to get a deal, and hopefully you have a unit open that is somewhat successful. And in that marketplace, you have a little bit of wiggle room to add more units. I'd spend it all there. I know that's really, really tough, but from a validation standpoint, I'm going to look at within my state. I'm going to look at my community, and I want to see a human being that's being successful that says, "Man, this was awesome. I loved it." And so it's not like the equation. Let me be clear. The equation is going to be different for every single business. It's not like it's one equation is going to absolutely equal deal. I use the number broadly that your cost per deal is either $25,000 or your cost per deal acquisition is basically what your franchise fee is. And in a broker community, that's in essence what we're spending anyway. But if you use that as a baseline that you want 10 deals, then you need about $250,000. And that's another part of this equation is how much is it going to cost to actually go execute the equation. Now you need to make sure you have the right indicators in place, and indicators go like this, in my opinion. You've developed a good website. You better have it. Without a good website, you're playing blindly. You're letting the candidate go back around the web, which is very easy for them to get razzle-dazzled by another franchise company. And so good website, that has to be in the mix. Smart retargeting. Retargeting is a beautiful form of advertising because you've already paid to acquire that click. Don't just say, come back to my website. Drive them into something that isn't buying. Give them a soft sell, like give that download brochure on what is franchising. Let them click into a video on you just talking about what franchising is. And I got a little bit of retargeting going. Now make sure that you're locked and loaded in the states that you want to grow in. Like if you're not registered in a state, don't spend money there. There's no value in that. You're not going to be able to sell a deal there. So stay locked and loaded on where you want to grow. Check mark. Now get into the persona of who that candidate is. And sometimes the persona can be as simple as looking at an alumni network that they're associated with. So I went to Drake University. If I see a piece of content about Drake University on LinkedIn or Facebook, I do click on it. As small as a college as it is. So you can find your persona, or you could say, we want high net worth individuals who are former accountants who are between the ages of 35 and 54. Like you can get very specific on who your candidate is. So website retargeting set up properly into some sort of soft sell. Now we've nailed our targets. What markets are we going into? And who is our persona? And now when we start buying our ad campaigns, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, maybe Bing and Yahoo, we have our digital channels. Now what we're looking for is numbers. First is how many people are coming from that state. Second is percentage of new users, because you want to see that they're coming back 6.4 months. You want to look at time on site. Like, are they actually staying on the site? Are they absorbing the information that you're giving to them? And then what you want to watch is you want to watch a scale. If you start tracking this, that eventually numbers go up, leads will start dropping in, leads start going up, applications start dropping in, deals start dropping in. And so that could be a lengthy process in what I just said. But if you were to start today, June, we're halfway home, we can still play for Q4. We can still evolve our advertising, hit families in July and August or at home summer, go back to pure business until November, shift back to family for November and December. And so build the right messaging strategy into your equation. Make sure that you're leveraging your existing franchisees and watch the growth happening. There are brands that say, well, Nick, we did all that and we're not growing. What's my opinion on that? And my opinion is this: you didn't do enough on your unit level economics. Put Mark's comment up there again. It's not mine, it's Mark's. You didn't do enough on the business modeling to equal the success that you want. So, there's plenty of franchisors out there that say, I want 20 deals, or I want 10, or I want 5. I'm going to grow slow and methodically. I want 5 deals next year. How many do you have now? 0, but I want 5 next year. I mean, that's still a pretty big climb. Are you willing to spend? Well, if it's guaranteed that I'm going to get deals, well, you're guaranteed to get deals if you use the broker networks. You're not guaranteed to get deals. You're guaranteed that if you pay, you're going to get a deal. You're paying for deals. So that's probably the route I would go in. But you take all these insights. Insights are so deeply valuable back to a franchisor because it allows you to figure out what is the equation that's specific to your brand as well. So here's my final thoughts on the equation. I believe that every franchise brand can win. Sometimes it requires you to take a step backwards, take a good look in the mirror, look at your business model, and make sure it's sound for what you're trying to accomplish. It's okay to not grow at this fake perceived pace that you've placed on yourself. Grow at a pace that is friendly towards you. Don't overdo it. When you start growing, put as much effort as possible in the success of your franchise operators. Most of the time, development goes all the way through to the deal and falls off at that point because they got to go get another deal done. But when the entire organization is built to really impact the success of franchisees, then we see tremendous opportunity. Thank you. I mean, that's a good point. My mic is hitting on the collar. Great. I mean, that's great feedback. You see, that's why this is interactive. But invest in the success of your franchisees. Celebrate the success of your franchisees. If you have 10 units, put out press releases that talk about their year milestone, their 2-year milestone, their 3-year milestone, whatever that number ends up being. Get the story out there that your franchisees are buying. Like that's what you need to do in this equation. Let me see. There's another comment in here. We are an emerging brand doing food safety consulting and training. Nobody is franchised in this arena. Would be the equation in this specialized area. Well, Oscar, without diving deep into your business, here's what I would say. I would imagine there are food safety consultants and trainers out there that are stuck in a job that is dead end. And so first I would start in your sense, I think you know who your target is. So I would dial into who your target is and use that as the starting point for building awareness. Even doing a webinar like this so that you have an opportunity, a long form opportunity to talk about your why you, why now to this very specific audience will give you an opportunity to start building that network of people. Like for our company, I'll give you the example with ours. I mean, our specialty, like most of the time, some franchisor, sales leader, founder, technology partner is looking at us and they're saying, okay, how can we grow our company? The way that they get into our system is just like this, conversations like this, where I am perfectly comfortable giving away the farm. I'll tell you everything that I know, and then hopefully I can be the supplemental solution that can help offset whatever challenges you have, because there's going to be challenges. And so how do they get to me? It's networking. It's people saying like, we had a really good experience with Mainland or 1851. That continues to flow out there. It's building content like this and not being afraid, being vulnerable. I mean, I'm sitting in a room by myself talking to you guys. So anyway, I think anybody can win, even you, Oscar, that you're very specialized or specific on the category that you're going after. Zoom out, like use that mentality. Zoom out, take yourself out of the business and say, if I had to get one franchisee, where are they? Most likely they're 1 degree separated from you. You just have to put it out there that here's what I'm looking for. And here's my why you, why now. And you can get lift. Some brands have the benefit of having that flashy thing, and flash does help. A lot of brands need to be creative in getting that story out there. Creative can sometimes be the founder story. Don't be afraid to tell your stories. Don't be afraid to throw more things at the equation. If you look at Einstein's equation, you were to just look at a picture of it, you think he figured that out on day one? I mean, maybe his name's Einstein, but I doubt it. I think there was a process that he had to go through to create equations or solutions to problems that he was solving. And it doesn't, like the Einstein equations, if you look at any of them, aren't pretty. Like, I mean, yes, they're a piece of art, but they're not pretty. It's not A plus B equals C. And so franchising the same way, and be okay with that. Understand this is going to be a war. Like, you're going to battle to get this thing going. But then when you have successful franchisees who open well and scale and tell everybody when they're asked, would I do this again? That's the secret to franchise growth. Franchisees sell franchises more than anything. And when those franchisees start validating, which so many emerging franchisors miss the opportunity to nail the grand opening model. And what happens at month 3 when sales dip a little bit? And what happens at month 9 when we have to generate more sales for the franchisee? It's there kind of through the franchise business consultants, but it's not as deep as it should be. And so if you go invest, take these next 6 months, go invest in the success of your franchisees, then 2024 is going to be great. So hopefully, this is Coffee Analytics. 30-minute mark is coming up. That's what I try to hit. Hopefully I give you some nuggets. Zoom out, take another look at your equation, go to work, make awesome stuff happen. Let me know about it. And hey, save that date. We would love to see you in Chicago. More information coming soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great weekend. See ya.